Welcome to IAYTD, and today we're discussing something called modding. This began as a word up video, but it quickly became apparent that it needed an entire what is video to cover all the details. Before we can dive into what modding is, we should define it. It comes from the root word of modify. So modding is to modify something, to change it or alter it. There are a few ways to use the word modding, but we're specifically going to dive real deep into what that means for computers and video games. The first recorded mod was for an old 1981 game called Castle Wolfenstein. Modifications were made to the visuals, turning all of the Nazi enemies into Smurfs. Other early computer games became prime candidates for modding, including early shooters like Doom. Skilled artists and/or programmers could swap in new art, create levels, change sounds, all sorts of things. The companies that actually created these games were usually on board with the idea of modifying the game, with Doom even publishing a final version of Doom that included some user-created content. Mods could give a game a much longer lifespan, constantly changing and evolving, so why wouldn't the creators want to encourage them? While the earliest examples of modding were for games, the popularity of self-contained consoles for video games also brought the ability to modify the consoles themselves. Some mods might be aesthetic, colors, and lights. These mods might be to make the console or computer more powerful, or sometimes a mod might fundamentally change the console. For example, a modification might allow for a console to have an entire collection of games downloaded for play, in an era when you were required to use cartridges or discs. Another popular mod was the ability to play foreign discs, games bought in other countries that would normally be unplayable. So let's catch up to now. Mods are commonplace, especially on PC gaming. Games like Skyrim have had an incredible shelf life because of user-created mods. Some mods make the game visually more impressive, while others add a twist, like turning dragons into the Macho Man Randy Savage. Some mods even change the game's mechanics, such as making the game more difficult. Grand Theft Auto 5 is also known to have a crazy amount of mods, such as replacing your character with new character models, or adding in dragons that you can ride. You can also use mods in GTA 5 to create crazy ramps and tricks that others can download and then try to accomplish. Sometimes these mods, when they are expansive and change the game significantly, can create an entirely new game. The game Counter-Strike originated as a mod for Half-Life. The game Dota began as a mod for Warcraft 3. Mods for actual consoles and computers have gotten much more extravagant as well. Something called case modding has become popular, where people outfit the case that actually holds their computer, often for aesthetic reasons, but sometimes there's a function to it too, such as water cooling that keeps your system cold when you push it to its limits. Earlier I asked the hypothetical question as to why a developer would not want modding supported. There have been a few cases where individuals have been sued because of the mods that they've created. It differs country by country though, so for example in the UK, someone was sued because they sold an Xbox that they modded and pre-installed games onto. In Italy, they decided that if you buy a console, you could do whatever you want to it. If you create a mod that violates the console or the game's terms of service though, you may face consequences unless the developer or creator promotes mods or even supplies programs that users can utilize to create mods, but that's rare. Recently, mods were in the news because of Bethesda Softworks and console support, where mods for games like Skyrim and Fallout 4 would then become available on PS4 and Xbox One. This gets a little complicated, especially with PlayStation, as Sony and Bethesda seemingly disagreed on what the conditions and requirements for these mods would be. This debate wasn't especially transparent to the public, but as of this video, they seemingly are still working on making these mods available, though the craziest mods will likely never be available on PlayStation. So those are the basics, at least in terms of gaming. This is superficial, but if you're interested in anything we talked about here, there are plenty of places to find more information. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on another What Is.